Time and time again in the red light district, we see morals being compromised in favor of appeasing the courtesans at the very top of the pecking order, as their status and importance are associated with immense earning power, which, every so often, may allow the higher-ranked oirins to get away with too much, all at the expense of the lives of those who are beneath their privilege. There are, for example, these particular oirins throughout history that shared a reputation of the worst kind, as well as an existence that has defied any sense of the world in a way that their story would be passed down from one generation to another. As far as the oldest inhabitants can remember, alleged sightings of these oirins, who were the spitting image of those that had appeared many decades before, had posed such a mystique where their youth and beauty can be viewed as eternal and ethereal. But the startling resemblances were more than skin deep, so to speak. On the inside, they all had the ugliest of hearts. Although hospitable to customers, it was apparently rumored that whoever got on their bad side knew just how violent, manipulative, and fearsome the oirins turned out to be. Nothing showed their true colors more than a failure to comply with their demand. Of the brutally stern measures which the oirins took to discipline the person at fault, many of the times the victims were driven to take their own lives after being precipitated by the oirins' cruel, relentless treatment. Behaviors were driven by fear in the presence of the headlining oirins, as they were very much controlling of others' every move, and this has always been the case, since much of the house's success can only be credited to them, which had fed an ever-expanding pathological sense of self-entitlement. When confronted, if any part displeases the oirin, she can turn very much into a demon inside and out, which is, of any indication, a disguise to prey on and devour beautiful courtesans for the 100 years and counting. All investigative leads relating to the suspicious activity of the high-standing demon eventually turned cold as the demon investigators themselves ended up vanishing on the case, because upon discovery, they would find themselves not just facing one, but two demons that occupied a shared position within the 12 demon moons. The two are the Upper Moon 6, Daki, the degenerate princess, and Gyutaro, the debt collector. And together, they have the collective body count of 22 Hashira, with the former claiming 7 and the latter taking 15, establishing how dangerous the demon siblings are as one. The younger sister, Daki, is perfectly suited to blending in with humans and appearing as if she belongs due to the fact that she's one of few demons capable of assuming a human appearance so convincingly that she can even slip through Hashira's undetected. In the many human identities she created, we only get occasional glimpses of the psychopathic narcissism she displays as a demon. Daki, who's proud of her high-ranking status and preoccupied with beauty, indulges in only the finest, most beautiful individuals, as well as demon slayers, considered worthwhile to give her the acknowledgement she craves. So long as Daki inspires fear or hatred, or exerts enough of an influence to live up to the expressed expectations of her master, she is sure to draw the attention of her importance to him. Because he has shown a preference to her, she feels inherently more deserving than anyone, and therefore no human has the right to deny a powerful, beautiful demon like herself from doing whatever she wants. Daki has abandoned her humanity a long time ago, and what little moral obligations they had as humans are completely irrelevant. When you have a flesh and blood body of a demon, you aren't burdened by the messiness of being human anymore. When such failures present an imminent decline in health, by virtue of growing old or trying to achieve more than what their bodies can humanly reach, it only affirms her views of the superiority of demons. In a bragging and judgmental undertone, there's an inbuilt impulse to express the utmost disvaluation of anything not deemed beautiful in her eyes.
もういいわよ、ブサイク。醜い人間に生きてる価値ないんだから。仲良くみんなで死に腐れる。
The older brother, Gyutaro, only surfaces when his dear little sister calls for his help, largely to engage in combat, as he offers a far fiercer resistance than the face of the Upper Moon 6. But, unlike his beautiful little sister, he struggles with his own physical self-image, even as seeing others being secure and happy with their lives would make him seethe with extreme envy. And what awaited was a heart wide open to the destruction of the far more fortunate. Locked in a constant state of deep sedative vindictiveness against those with better lives, his mood fluctuates in fortune of others around him, as he's not able to help but compare them to his own deficiencies. And as such, a certain satisfaction is found from taking in the misfortune of others and laughing at them for their miserable situation.
やっぱりそうか。みっともねえな、お前。全然妹守れてねえじゃねえか。なあ、おい。今どんな気持ちだ？一人だけみっともなく生き残って。
The demon siblings do not necessarily think alike. However, a distorted malign worldview is still shared by brother and sister, where the two harbor malice towards just about any and everyone that ever evoked feelings of irritation, envy, or disgust in them, as this is their way of enacting retribution on the world that had wronged them in their past life.
The horrible things done to us, the things that made us suffer, that's the way we've chosen to live our lives. We have killed off anyone who's ever crossed us, anyone who's ever slighted us. We're going to slash through your gullets, just like we did to all who came before you.
Being stuck on what happened to them as children, the siblings collect on the debts of humans that had the misfortune to encounter them, balancing the scales of the hardships the two had to endure. Their hunting ground is a link to their previous lives, not to mention where the deep-seated resentment and unhappiness had taken root and grown inside them. Before Daki came into existence, Gyutaro, being a boy with birth defects born within the lowest parts of a society that valued appearance and status above all else, was basically made to feel unwelcome, unloved, and worthless. Shunned from birth through no fault of his own, whether it was strong, unprovoked reactions to his looks, or the physical and emotional abuse at the hands of a neglectful and mentally unstable mother, Gyutaro only saw himself an existence plagued by nothing but misfortune. After what seemed like a lifetime of unfairness and mistreatment, his life would eventually be balanced out with a blessing that he'll treasure forever, and that was the gift of unconditional love to a new baby sister. It could be said that this was the first time that Gyutaro had found any real meaning in this pitiful sight of his human life, because of how often people would be absorbed in Daki, or rather, Ume's beauty, whose natural looks was elsewhere unequal. She was offered many opportunities and a degree of public affection Gyutaro has never had. Ume made him beam with pride and joy, being rightly proud that someone of relation could have possibly had a promising future within a life born in poverty. This allowed Gyutaro to define his self-worth in the role of a devoted guardian to his younger sister. Be that as it may, the two were still deprived of parental love, as well as many necessities of life, and only having each other, their bond became stronger and stronger with time. However, well-meaning as Gyutaro might be, or rather, could be, for someone who grew up without proper guidance, he already had become far too spiteful, and in many ways made the conscious effort to perpetuate more hate and suffering with the fear he inspired along the passing of his core belief, take before you're taken from, to Ume, which perhaps incurred the greatest misfortune of his life. The thing about karma is that it can sometimes be sudden, and once it catches up to you, you find yourself reaping what you sow for the years of past misdeeds committed. Not only did they take away the one and only thing that made his life worth living for, in the most horrific way possible, the only one that came to the cry of a young boy, barely clinging to life, was something inhuman. In experiencing the ugliness of humanity, it was the district that had made them vindictive, and from that moment, the siblings became inexplicably bound together. As it turned out, the literal connection between Gyutaro and Daki imprinted a cellular linkage in their demon physiology which enables them to act as the other's additional lifeline, meaning that in order to kill the Upper Moon 6, it would require the pair to be beheaded at the same time. Under those circumstances, it's made all the more difficult to get rid of one in isolation, never mind both together with the elder brother taking the lead. As evidenced by the body count, even demon slayers with the skills of a Hashira stand little fighting chance against the combined assault of the demon siblings' demon blood art. For the entirety of the duration, it is an impetuous torrent of sharp-edged blood blades, coated in deadly poison, fatal enough to kill as soon as struck. Joined together with obi sashes, made from flesh designed with long-range capabilities and greater versatility, such as spying, eluding, and capturing, while remaining flexible yet sharp in its material. With the power in the form of an eye bestowed upon Daki by Gyutaro, he can hear and see through her senses, enhance all of her abilities, and even manipulate her body to do his bidding. That way, he can coordinate their attacks for an even more devastating effect. But most importantly, he can always keep an eye on her. In fact, the symbiotic connection between the demon siblings embodies the older brother's oath to protect his younger sister. Since he wasn't present to protect her when she needed him most, he lies dormant within her body, assuring her that he will never leave her side while she can live the life she wants. Her comfort, her joy, and her well-being are all that matter to him the most. Now, this did, however, spoil her rotten by fame and the affection of an older brother that indulged her every whim. While Daki seems to convey an impression of authority to non-Hashira demon slayers, her need to command the attention of Hashiras assumes a motive of seeking validation, having to project this air of superiority to assure that she feels extremely relevant and powerful. It can be hard to conceive the fact that the face of the Upper Moon 6, whose domineering attitude was all the fiercer, whose presence had a grip on the people around her, whose mind, trained to evade detection, was found even less self-capable than the grand image she cultivated. In that, Daki believes her own abilities far beyond her actual capabilities. When and if an opposition brutally tears away any perception that she might have had that she was doing well, she becomes unable to emotionally handle being far less than what her vanity makes herself out to be. Whenever Daki is frustrated at her sheer inability to deal with things that don't work out, conscious of her total helplessness, she'll regress to that of a petulant child, throwing a literal, full-blown temper tantrum as she cries out to her older brother, as if she was the victim of an incident. The following illustrates the fact that Daki, underneath the facade, is an emotionally stunted child, wrapped in the body of an adult that had conflated their overconfidence to make themselves seem bigger and better than they really are. The continual emphasis on her given rank, the clinging to the identity of the Upper Moon for the sliver of self-importance, the need to verbally put others down to be seen as superior. This all would therefore put into question the authenticity of her achievements and how much Gyutaro's success was claimed as her success. One can't deny her resolve to be able to stay resilient after reliving a traumatic experience. But even if she did claim her past kills without help or intervention, she's still no match against the current era of Hashira. Their very first encounter against one of the best showcased how much a night and day difference there was between the Upper Moon 6. In that initial contact, Daki was beheaded in an instant without her realizing, as if she was no threat. Whereas Gyutaro made his presence immediately felt by evading an attack that shouldn't be possible in the seeming window of vulnerability when emerging, reacting effortlessly, all while saving Daki in the process. Appearances are often misleading. As disheveled and unhinged as he may be, his actions are deliberate. His intuition is strong and undeniably much more competent than the other half. In fact, it would be more correct to class him as the true Upper Moon 6, whereas the other's title is merely a byproduct of being related. It should come as no surprise that Muzan actually has a less than favorable view of her, which is in stark contrast to what he tells her. The reason he puts up with Daki and takes the effort to stroke her ego is in fact a manipulation tactic to redirect Gyutaro, his actual favorite, to do what he wants, since Gyutaro's efforts was essentially devoted to Daki. In spite of the many advantages the siblings' bond offers, Muzan still sees her as a liability rather than an asset, as she's too concerned with her own beauty and the need to impress him. Being selective in what she chose to eat made their overall growth slower. With her power alone, she was repeatedly decapitated without much effort, and even when she was enhanced by her brother, she still required saving from non-Hashira demon slayers. Daki, in Muzan's eyes, cannot be counted on to follow through, as she lacks the strength, toughness, and power to do the work needed to be done, believing she's nothing more than emotional baggage that holds the true Upper Moon 6 back from achieving more. But the bond between Daki and Gyutaro can't be severed, not even by Muzan, as no greater power or higher rank could be worth more than Gyutaro's most precious joy. While she can be a real handful, he never really viewed her as a hindrance in his life as a demon. In fact, he's proud that even after having failures, she tried to the best of her ability. As impulsive as they are, the difference is that Daki is quick to dismiss, whereas Gyutaro acknowledges one's abilities until he feels the need to bring them down to discredit their strength and worth. They say that misery loves company, and that when he saw a sibling relationship that reminded him of his own with Daki, it allowed him to project, for instance, his grief, guilt, and the hurtful words that became a wound on his mind to Tanjiro to make up for the true feelings of worthlessness that he felt inside, that being a failure of an older brother. Similarly, Tanjiro also saw himself in Gyutaro, acknowledging that Nezuko and he could have ended up easily in the same circumstances, but at the same time, wanting them to understand that stemming from acting upon misguided anger does not absolve the two from harming innocents. Only out of compassion for their sibling bond does he intervene to prevent the demon sibling from making any more regret at the end of their life. As for regret, Gyutaro had little remorse for his actions in life, with the exception of being a bad influence on Ume. He always knows her better than she knows herself, as someone that takes up the words of those she trusts and admires to heart, and because of that, he blames himself for everything that's happened to her. Almost every decision was made in the best interests of Daki, and given one last chance to make things right, he wants her to live the life that was always intended for her, even if it means separating his life from hers. But Ume doesn't forsake him. The only ones who'd understand what they went through were each other. During the tough times, whenever she cried, he was always there to be her source of comfort, and that kind of warmth lives forever in the memories you hold deeply. The feeling of mutual love and admiration was always there, but because the fear of being deemed worthless is buried deep in her subconscious, she kept feeling the need to deflect blame from herself, which resulted in Daki carelessly prioritizing her ego over their relationship, which had left Gyutaro devalued and unappreciated. But make no mistake about her love for her older brother. In fact, we learned that the rash impulsiveness to assault the samurai was due to being offended by the insult directed toward her brother. They came into the world as brother and sister, and wherever the two might be, whether it'll be enduring the harsh weather on the streets, becoming the vilest, wretched, and most evil of monsters, or facing punishment in the depths of hell, the only path they would take is one they can walk together. Alrighty, what are your thoughts on Daki and Gyutaro?